Can somebody acknowledge? Am I audible?
Sir.
Okay. So in today's class, we will revisit the same concept of singly linked list. Okay. Then we will also see in the so-called singly linked list, um, singly linked list data structure. When you are applying the concept of C++ class, how is it possible to attach the STL feature? That means the template class feature. Okay, so what we will do in first half of today's class is we will take the entire source code that we have implemented by using the singly linked list and which we have implemented by using C++ class, and then we will try to attach the STL because there are some additional language specific features that you need to remember specifically when you deal with wrapper data type along with the singly linked list concepts uh, in order to enable the feature of C++ STL class, that is standard template library class. Okay, so this will be our first half of today's class, and then subsequently in the next half we will see what are the different other data structures, and in that we will look into the implementation aspects of stack and queue, and initially we will take up stack. So in today's class there are two parts. One is how do you enable the singly linked list as a C++ template class or a class template, and then what is a stack, why is it required, and how to implement, or what are the different options which are available for the programmer to design and implement the stack, and which option is recommended at what time. Okay, and then implementation aspects of stacks will be looked in today's class. And again, in implementations of the stacks, we will be visiting only the first option of the implementation. The other options subsequently we will follow up in the upcoming classes. Okay, so am I clear what we are doing? Are you clear? So can somebody respond? Is my voice is audible?
Sir.
Okay, shall we proceed? Okay. So coming to the C++ singly linked list class, this is how we have done, isn't it? So we have written a class, a ADT class, and then inside the ADT class, we have written different modules which are segregated into functions. So on the left hand side, you can see that there is a structure. There is a structure which is a self-referential structure, which is a singly linked list node. Okay, where this singly linked list node, the data is treated as the integer, and then in main you are addressing the data privacy by taking or by creating an object, right? And what are the entities that needs to be kept inside the class? One is pointer to the beginning of your singly linked list, which is called as the root node or the head node. And of course you need to create the head node, and you need to add the nodes at the end, and then display. So these three are the basic functions of any singly linked list. So other than this, all this we have implemented in the last classes. Okay, right? So what we will do is, what is the syntax, or how do I attach this entire program which has been implemented on single list with the C++ class which is addressing the data privacy, and then how do I also add the concept of generic programming, that means generic class. So notice that this is also very important topic to be understood by the coders. Okay, so see here, there are two user defined data types. Okay, so one is you have a self-referential node, which is a singly linked list wrapper data type, and second is a class. Okay, so there are two different derived data types, isn't it? So now inside the class, you have a pointer to a wrapper. You have a pointer to the wrapper. So the point is, you cannot write a template or you cannot attach a template which is outside of the class directly to the STL class unless you are using a primary data type. Okay, so meaning you cannot use the same syntax of template class and then attach the so-called singly linked list node structure and then replace this int probably with the capital T. Okay, so what we will do is I will now open the source code editor and I'll copy the entire program of the single linked list which has been done for your class. Okay, so with the class with the single linked list, I'll initially open, and then in that implementation, if I directly add this single linked list wrapper data type, if I try to attach it to the STL, then I will get an error. Okay, so instead, this structure needs to be moved inside the class. Okay, so let us do that. Can somebody come in if you have any doubts? Maybe you may be having plenty of doubts. Once I start the implementation, you just follow it. Okay, you start following it, and during the implementation phase, wherever you are not understanding what I'm doing, or you are not certain what is happening, please interrupt me and ask the doubts. Okay. Can somebody acknowledge? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Shall we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Let me open the online class lecture number 9. I think lecture number 9 I didn't do any coding if I remember, right? Sir, no.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even Shiva Prasad is unable to join the classes.
Can you ask him to put his mail ID?
Okay, sir. He has sent me, sir. I'll be sending you.
Yeah. Put it in my chat box so that I can add him.
Okay.
Let me check the chat box. Shiva Prasad 2001. Okay, I got it.
Okay. Sir.
Me invite the participant. Where do I need to do? Yeah, here. Yeah, I have invited. Please ask Mr. Shiva Prasad to use his email and then log in into the class. Okay. Okay. So can somebody respond? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm just opening number 8, singly linked list implementation of the C++ class, and then I'm putting that code in here. So just go through this whether this is the same thing what we have done. Okay, creating the head node, adding the head node display. Let me remove this fellow. Let me remove. Let us also remove the bubble sort and selections. So I'm keeping create head, add at end, and then display. That means preliminary singly linked list, maintaining a singly linked list, and then the question extends. Is now I want this singly linked list with generic class. That means generic data type. Okay, so let me remove all those add at the end has to be there. All those other things which are not required. Create at head has to be there. Display has to be there. I think I didn't use recursion. Okay, so this is add at a specific place. I'm just removing this. This is not required. Do selection sort. This is also not required. Do bubble sort. This is also not required. And this is the destructor, and then 4, 5 options are not required. 6 is also not required. 10 is required. Okay. So other than 1, 2, 3, 10 other cases, I have to delete. To case 10, I have to delete. Okay. So let us make ensure that this fellow is executing properly, and then we will attach this entire class, which is starting from class line number 10 to the STL. Okay, let me check whether Shiva Prasad has joined. Can somebody acknowledge? Shiva Prasad, did you join successfully? Check the participants. Let me check the participants. There are 53 students. Okay, Shiva Prasad. What is his roll number? Shiva Prasad. Can somebody 43, 43.
43, sir.
Yeah, I think he joined. He has joined. Okay, good. Shiva Prasad's email ID, I will add it into the safe list. Okay, fine. Still there are 53 students. I mean, that means 53 means 6 minus 1. 5 students have to join. Okay. Sneha, you are there? Sneha couldn't able to join. Okay. So I hope the recording of these classes is helping. Okay. Anyway, let us continue with. Yeah. It is yes. Okay. Fine. So let me. Have you understood what we have done in the program? We have not done anything. We have assumed that as of now you have written a program of maintaining integer singly linked list with the basic features of adding a new node at the end of the list, and then adding a new node at the end of the list, and then displaying it, and then you are exiting it. Adding, displaying, exiting. That's it. Any other things that are in need as a part of the requirement, if it is needed, you can keep on adding in the switch case, as was discussed in the last class. Previous classes. Okay. Shall we proceed? Shall we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me compile this, making sure that I'll make sure that this guy is working properly. And then, yeah, so create head node and then add a node at the end. So let me create, let us say, head with 4, and then 2 with 8, and then 2 with 12, and then 2 with 16, and then 2 with 20. So I have created 5 nodes. So let us display it. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, X. Okay. And then let me print. I think in the destructor we have also printed the value of I, which is used in order to tell that you are deleting. Okay. So far any doubts? Now what is the thing we are doing? What is the thing we are doing? Let me put it in comment. What is the thing we are doing? We are writing implement C++ STL class with singly linked list, having with singly linked list. Okay, and validate it with probably one is integer and one is floating point. This is the question which we are discussing now. Implement a C++ STL class. Sometimes this can also be written as implement a C++ generic class. implement a C++ generic class with singly linked list, okay, or implement a singly linked list with a generic data type and validate it with integer, maybe only one, or validate it with integer or and floating point. Okay. So now the point is, shall I proceed? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is that we have to do? We have to attach it to the template. So if I use template, let us say class T. Okay. So and then I need to change this int to T, isn't it? Yes or no? So yes or no? Yes or no? Template.
Yes, sir.
Template. Okay. So this is the class. Then what I have to do is what is that with which you are creating is a T, and add at the end is T, entity is T. Okay, and add at the end, what is this integer? Okay, whether it is success or fail. So that means the return type will be int only. Okay. Now this is how you write a STL class, yes or no.
Yes, sir.
So now you have to write dynamic casting data type with the T. You have to use this syntax for all the member functions. That means this and then T, then this is what adding at the end. What is this? This is head node, creating the head node with a specific data, with a generic data type. That means this will be T. Okay. So notice that head arrow X is a T type. Next, you have to display. Now, in order to display, you have to again attach the generic data type at runtime. Okay. Then destructor, so generic destructor, and then this is an object which assume that you are using integer. The other things are all same. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if I compile this, now I'll get a error. I'll get a error because you are already using you are attaching a structure first to the STL, and then you are attaching the class next with a inner data with a inner data item inside the class, which is maintaining a pointer to a generic data type. Okay. So you'll get a error saying that template declaration of type def, which is again a wrapper. It is not allowed. Okay. So what is that you have to do is now you cannot in two-stage template attachment is not possible. That is the point here. The point is when you use your derived data types or derived data types that include structures, unions, enumerations, including C++ classes, you cannot extend the concept of attaching those things with the generic data types to second levels. That means you cannot maintain pointers to other generic data types. Instead, you need to write the clean single layer attachment that needs to be done to the STL. Okay. So expand the panel to show video. What is this video? Okay, fine, no problem. So what is that we have to do is now you have to remove this. Okay. So I'm keeping this in comment. bring this structure inside the class. This structure inside the class, and then take a node star pointer. If I don't use the type def, I need to again and again I have to write struct. Now it will be clear. I mean, now it will not create any problem because you are attaching STL. Inside STL, there is a inner wrapper data type, and you are creating a pointer to that wrapper data type. And notice that your inner wrapper data type is also again is having a self-referential pointer to the same wrapper type. Okay, so this is nothing but a singly linked list of a wrapper node. Okay, so notice that the data type is T. Clear? Have you understood? Have you understood? Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us compile this. Prototype for int, add at end, doesn't match. This is warning, this is fine. What is this? Prototype for int, roll number, sorry, not roll number, line number 39. Yeah, add at end, adding has to be done with a specific type, isn't it? Now let us compile. Okay, so let us create the head node with probably multiples of 10. Now let us add one node. Let us say this is 20. Now let me add another fellow. Let us say it is 30. And then let me display. So 10, 20, 30. Okay. Here. Here. Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah, good. So now let us extend this to the concept of, the char in singly linked list with STL with a runtime polymorphism or runtime polymorphism with let us say char. I think I took float, right? Let me take float. Let us create another object R2. Okay, so this is an object that holds the SLL of floating point numbers. Okay, so I'll throw the options here with probably 1, 2, 3, and then I will extend this with 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, and then 6, and 7. So this is create a head node. This is for integer. So add a node at the end, which is for integer singly linked list. This is display the SLL with integer linked list. Okay, so let me copy all this for floating point. This is for floating point. So after 4, this has to be 5, this has to be 6. So this is for floating point. Now again, this has to be floating point. Now notice this. Notice that this has been asked many times in the exam. Okay, so implement a generic singly linked list. Implement a generic singly linked list class. Okay, and maintain the singly linked list with integer and floating point two different arrays. Okay, so case 1, case 2, case 3 is completed. Now case 4, 5, 6 needs to be focused now. So I'm going to use the same case-based statements. case 2, case 3 up to here. What I'm going to do is, starting from case 4, more specific, let us also rewrite this, enter the head node of integers. This is enter the node value, which is an integer, displaying the list, which is an integer list. Okay, then enter the head node, which is a floating point. Now here, let us use R2. Am I audible? Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you
Sir.
following? Are you following?
Yes.
Other than Anaga, anybody else, please respond.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Shiva Prasad is there? Are you following? Monish is there? Monish? Monish? Monish, roll number 10. Roll number 10, 10, 10. There are 56 students. Yeah, Monish is present. Okay. Monish, can you able to follow? Are you following what we are doing? Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Chat. Okay, good, good. Okay, right. So, floating point, what is this? This is case 5, right? Now, case 6. 6. This is you are also displaying the list, which is a floating point. Okay, so now here R2 dot. This is also R2 dot. Notice that R1 is for object for integers. R2 is object for floating point. Did I created R2? Yes. Okay, so let us compile this. Let us compile this. So all these options I am asking, let me first complete the integer part. Notice that your constructor 2 times it has been called. The first constructor, this fellow, is for integer. The second constructor, which is this, is because of floating point single linked list object. So let us focus on first single linked list. So that means create head node. I'll keep the multiplication table of probably 6. Then again add a new node, that is 2. Then I'll keep 12. Then again I'll keep 2. Then I'll take 18. Then I keep 2. Then I'll keep 24. So 6 to 24 needs to be displayed if I choose 3. Okay, 6, 12, 18, 24 got displayed. Now let me start creating a floating point node. That means option 4. Okay, so let me take some floating point number 2.3. Right. Now, what has happened? Okay, now what? I think there was some bug.
Sir, you have not changed the case, sir. You have
I think I have
case.
not changed the case and therefore it is entering into infinite. Let me check whether there is a duplicated cases. Case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5, case 6. Which case you are talking about? Floating point 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6, floating point R2. Oh, okay, there is a problem here. See, when you are taking floating point, you have to take the data also floating point, right? Yes or no? Data also has to be floating point. So here you are taking K, and then let me take some floating point number. Let us say float R. Okay, float V. V stands for value. Right. So in case 4, when you are creating a new node, how can you accept an integer? Because there is a mismatch there. So it has to be V. It has to be V. Then you pass V. M can be integer because you are returning an integer only. Then what? Then create a new node value at the end. This is also again V. Now take that variable V and then attach it to the end. Okay, then here it is fine. So let us now compile. Have you understood? Have you understood the problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now let me create probably with the 3 elements of integer 1, 4, 2, 6, 2. Let me display 4, 6, 10. Okay, now let me take 4, option 4, in order to create the floating point single linked list node. Maybe now 2.4. Okay, then node is created. Then what? Add a node at the end, which is option 5. Now let us say 3.123. Next, add a node at the end, which is again 5. Let us say 7.86. Now let us display the floating point, which is 6. Those are the 3 numbers: 2.4, 3.123, and 7.86. Okay, so with this, we are done with the complete implementations of single linked list with different permutations and combinations. Now notice that when you are asked to implement a single linked list with the templates, the primary single linked list, which is with creating a head node, adding the node at the end, and then displaying. These 3 alone will be asked. The others, which are insertion, deletion, or sorting, searching, this can be extended. All this can be extended with different cases, by handling different cases. Okay, so now if I call 10, notice that I have created 3 nodes which are integers and 3 nodes which are of floating point. So I need to get 2 times destructor call. So you'll get first destructor, which is because of integer, and second destructor, which is because of float, with the three elements each. Okay, so have you understood? So the point to be remembered is, don't attach a wrapper second level wrapper data type directly to the STL. That yields to error. Okay, clear? Am I clear?
Sir.
Fine. Okay, good. So let me copy this before I further proceed, because I can probably share this. Okay, so let me copy that into lecture number 10. Online lectures, online classes, regular class, lecture number 10. As a notepad, the program 1.txt, and whatever I have just shown, I have copied that in the notepad. Okay, so that it will be helpful for you. Clear? Clear? Can somebody acknowledge? Have you followed? Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us now enter into the next topic. That is, what is a stack? Okay, so coming to the, shall we proceed? Definition of a stack, and why is it important? Okay, and how do you implement stack? In today's class, we will see one of the implementation of stack. Yes, what is a stack? Can somebody use the mic and then tell the definition of a stack? Yes. What is a stack? Okay, where we have used stack? Where we
In function calls.
yeah, correct. In function calls. Any other instances or any other cases used to stack?
Recursion.
Recursion.
Recursion is a sort of function. It is the subtopic of functions only. That means one is function. So other than functions,
The
anywhere
Or
else,
precedence
operators.
of operators.
Operators. Precedence.
operators precedence. How? For example, if you have C is equal to A plus B into D, Okay. Partially it is correct. The second use of stack is in order to evaluate the larger expressions. For example, if you have a expression with more than 2 operands, okay, or more than 2 variables with certain operations, then you need stack. Why you need stack? Because you need to save the intermediate results. You need to save the intermediate results. Okay. Because if you have, let us say, a plus b plus c, okay, compiler has to take a plus b, the intermediate result has to be saved in some memory. That some memory is nothing but stack. Okay, so now let me technically explain what is stack is. So stack is defined as a data structure. Stack is defined as a data structure, which is the segment of the memory that sits or that resides in the primary memory within brackets RAM, that is called as the data memory. Okay, which is not linked with the heap. Heap is different. Stack is different. Okay, and this data structure is implemented in such a way that the last element whichever has been inserted alone can be retrieved. The last element which has been inserted can be alone retrieved. So stack is only one way. Stack is only one way. That means stack is also called as first in, first out. Whoever has inserted element in the last, when you fetch the fetch something from the stack, then whatever you have last inserted will come first. So imagine stack as if it is a bucket, okay, or it is a track, and then assume that in that you are keeping all books one after the other, right? So whatever book you have kept last, only that book can be fetched back. You cannot take the book which is at the down. Okay, so therefore this is a data structure which is called as last in, first out, or first in, last out. So technically speaking, this is how your stack look like. So whenever you are asked to implement a stack, you have to use and you have to draw the memory vertically. This is point number 1. Remember that you have to draw the memory only in vertical direction. And in stack data structure, you use the operations which are the standard names. Okay, whenever you are keeping or whenever you are inserting, your insertion or your deletion of the elements inside the stack has to happen only in one direction. Has to happen only at one way, not one direction, only at one way. See, in this diagram you have top and then bottom. So here bottom you cannot touch. Okay, so whenever you are trying to insert a data item into the stack, then that operation is called as push. Am I audible? Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And whenever you are retrieving the data from the existing stack, that operation is called as pop. So there is a push and there is pop. Right. So what is the definition of stack? In simple, stack is defined as a data structure implementation which is stored or which is located in the primary memory within brackets RAM, whose implementation is done in such a way that the last in entity can only be fetched as the output entity. Okay, so this is called last in, first out. So whichever entity has came last in, that entity alone can be fetched back. Or whichever entity has came first, that entity will be in a position to fetch back at the last. That is first in, last out. Okay. Is the definition is clear? Let me again redefine the definition of a stack. Stack is defined as a data structure which can be implemented as a linear data structure or a non-linear. That comes under implementation. So coming to the definition of stack, it is defined as the data structure which is specifically implemented in the segment of primary memory, which is in RAM, in such a way that the entities, that is the insertion, are inserting the elements. Retrieving the elements will happen only at one place. Okay, so there are three things that needs to be remembered in stack. One is called the element. Whenever you are inserting, that operation is called as push. Okay, so and the element that you are retrieving, whenever you are trying to retrieve, then that is called as pop. And always there should be an index which is called as a top. Okay, that always points to the top of the stack. So top is an index which is pointed at the top of the stack. Clear? Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Now, why is it required? Why is it required? Maybe I'll spend little time because this is very important in order to appreciate the concept of a stack in microprocessor based designs. So what I'll do is maybe I can open, I think I can annotate here. Anyway, I will open that whiteboard. Do we have time? Yeah, have another half an hour. Okay, so let me open the whiteboard. AWW. So meanwhile, when I'm making myself ready, I think I can shoot some couple of questions. Yeah, reflection spot questions. So I'm copying this link. Results automatically. No. Let me accept the responses. Okay, so I'll keep a couple of questions in the chat box. I mean, click the link on the chat box and then start answering the two questions which are pertaining to data structures. That is the CD linked list. Your time starts now. I'm just giving 1 minute. No, 30 seconds. Just click that link on chat box and then answer the two points. Answer the two questions. Can somebody respond? Did you got my link? Somebody respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, last 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, last 5 seconds. Making sure that you are clicking the submit button. Okay, I got 17 responses. 18, 19, 22, 23. Okay, all of you, please make ensure that you are submitting your responses. I'll consider this only as the attendance. Those who are not submitting, I'll not consider their attendance. That means 37 students are present. 41, okay, 42. So only 46 are present. Let me post this course. So 12 students are absent. Okay, so let me post the scores. "48". Now let me go to the settings and then I will stop accepting the responses. 49, still make ensure that you are submitting. 51. Okay, 8 students are absent, not 8, 7. Okay, so let me stop here. Shall I stop? Did I give enough time? Rakshal, are you there? Maybe he's using chat box. No. Can somebody respond? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So let me stop. Still, I'm getting. Okay, I'm stopping accepting the responses. Let me stop. You have, I mean, out of 5 marks, your average score is very bad. Has raised a hand. 43. Yes. Any doubt? 43. Okay. Let us go through these questions once. Maybe let me go to these questions. Yeah, what is this? This is a node traversal logic. I hope this web page is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what will be returned if the following C++ function is called in main? Assume that H is the root node of a single linked list of type node star with the p next pointing to the next node. Okay, so this get count, notice that he is starting at I is equal to 1, incrementing I plus plus, but he is not going till the end of the list. He is stopping just before, that means just before the tail node. So if you have 5 elements, it will be detecting it as 4 only. So the answer is total number of nodes minus 1. Answer is B. B is the answer. Then, okay, then if you compare the static or dynamic arrays versus single linked list, which among the following is correct? Both the insertion as well as deletion of the elements of the array is tough when compared with single linked list. Single linked list is extremely simple. You need to kill the connections and then you need to establish the connections in either side, wherever there is a need of insertion or wherever there is a need to delete. But in order to do the same logic using an array, then you need a huge amount of memory chunk of data memory, because you need to create a duplicate array and then copy the elements what you want and then and then take back again those elements that you want and then release that duplicate array. Okay, so you are not only maintaining the array itself, but again a secondary duplicate array also needs to be maintained in the case of linear 1D array, which is not a efficient memory efficient code. It is not a memory efficient code. Okay, so the answer is both insertion as well as deletion of the elements in the array is tough compared with single linked list. Clear? Clear? Anybody has any issues? Any doubts? Any doubts? Any doubts? Anybody has any doubts?
No, sir.
No. Okay, good. Now let me go to the slide. How do you justify that you require stack in functions? Yes. How do you justify that you require stack in functions? Can somebody tell how do you technically prove? How do you prove that you need stack for functions?
When a function is called,
Hmm.
context switching takes place.
What do you mean by context switching?
The control will switch from the main to the function definition.
Where is the control? Whose control?
The control of the program. I
That
mean,
means,
because it is sequentially executed language,
that means the control of the program is pointing to which memory?
RAM.
Okay, where is the program?
It is in the main application. I mean,
Main application is stored where? Where will you store your program? Because technically speaking, once the program is done, if the system is off, your program has to be retained, isn't it? Program has to be somewhere. Where is that somewhere?
that is in ROM. But once we save, it will be saved in the ROM.
Where? In ROM. Okay, so now the point is, where will be the program? First, that is the fundamental question. Where is the program? See, you are writing a .c code. Maybe I can here. Okay, so this is where, assume that this is your compiler. So you are writing your myapp.c .cpp. Now this you are asking parser. Okay, so there is a sort of parser here which knows certain language confined rules. So here this is called as so-called compiler. Where is this compiler installed? Compiler is installed in ROM in your hard disk. Okay, and eventually this myapp.cpp, by using the tool chain set which is available as a part of your C++ compiler, will now convert all this into machine code. What do you mean by machine code? What do you mean by machine code? What do you mean by machine code? Our hardware understandable file will contain what?
Binary code.
Binary code. That is correct. That means that is nothing but .exe file, isn't it? This is sorry. This is my app, right? My app.exe. So this, assume that this code whichever you have generated using your application. No, I mean I'm spending little time here because but it is very important. You need to understand. And when you come in the 6th semester, you will be designing the so-called the fellow of stack. This I'm discussing about stack here. Okay. So this is in human readable format. This is in human readable format. Now this is the code which is in hardware readable format, machine readable format. Okay. And the translation of human readable code by following certain rules which are confined to the notion of compiler, you are converting that into hardware readable format. Okay. Now the point is, where will be the application which is a .exe file is saved? It is in program memory. That is why ROM is called as program memory. Okay. So this so-called this application, this myapp.exe, which is nothing but ones and zeros, is now technically stored in where?
ROM.
In ROM. Okay. Now let me keep that arrow little up because I need to deal with function address. This is stored in ROM. Let us assume for time being, for our analysis part, the address of this, where you are keeping this application is, let us say 100H. I'm using the, whenever I say addresses, I'm using the hexadecimal number system notion. Okay. Now at 100H, you have what? I'm keeping a colon. You have the address of main. Yes or no? That is what is the starting of your application. That is what we have been studying for almost 1 year. Every application has to start from main. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay. Now here it has the file which is in the form of zeros and ones, and so on. Okay. Now, as what is this file comprises of? This file comprises of your code. What is that code? myapp.cpp. Who has converted this code to this? Compiler. So as a part of this code, you have written, let us say, a function call here. There is a function call here. Okay. That function call is a function call in our human readable format at myapp.cpp level. But in hardware level, it is nothing but zeros and ones. You following? Let me again repeat. Inside the function, inside the application, which is your myapp.exe, okay, everything is in binary, including the instruction saying that I need to go to that address and then I need to do something. Now assume that this function's address is at, let us say, at maybe 300. I'm assuming the address as downward. Okay, please follow carefully. Now address of this, the address before this function is, let us assume the address before this function is let us say some 176. This is, you have here, you have the you have some instruction, and then you are invoking a function. That means you are asking to jump. You are asking to jump to 300 address. This is what technically you are asking. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Are you following the scenario? This is the application which is coded in binary. I mean, hardware fellow, microprocessor fellow will understand only zeros and ones in a way that it is in a position to understand that it has to jump to 300. Now the address which is before this jump, which is 176, this instruction will be completed. Okay. So all these
Yes, sir.
operations will be done by the control unit of your processor. So there is something called as control unit. There is something which is called as a control unit. Where is that? Yeah. So you have a microprocessor. In that you will have something which is called as control unit. So in microprocessor, you will have something which is called as a control unit. I'm not disclosing the internal architecture of the microprocessor, but I'm technically justifying why stack is that important. Okay, so program is sitting in the program memory. What program? Your .c program or .cpp program, which you have converted into .exe code, that is in binary format, is there in program memory. Okay, so now you are executing this. Who is executing? Processor is executing. How it is executing? Using the control unit. Where it is executing? In the processor. By using what? By using the circuits of ALU. Okay. Now, whatever you are using, all those variables demand RAM. Those variables demand RAM. Okay. So now what is happening is, in first case, you are asking the program to start executing from 100. So the program will be getting executed one by one, and once the program looks that, or it understands that it has to jump to this address 300, where you have to do something else here. Other instructions are there. let us say some instructions are there here. And then again, after completing these instructions, it has to return. This is how in ones and zeros will be told to the processor. Okay. Now what will be done? Are you following? Are you following? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir.
so after completing the instruction which is at 176, the address of the next instruction, which is now not 177, it is 178, that will be pushed here. 178 is pushed here. This operation is called as push. That will be technically pushed. Will be pushed from the onto the stack. So let us assume that this is your stack, and okay, so 178 is pushed. Now assume that this is your stack, which is S of 0. Now what it has to do? It has saved the address where it has to return after completing the instructions which are there at the address of function. Again, repeat. Processor has to return safely to the address 178 after completing those instructions present at the address 300. That is the meaning. Are you following? That means what? The program flow will now start fetching the instructions from 300. It starts executing. Okay, and then it makes context switch by taking back the saved address. This is called pop. Whereas this is called as push. So intermediate all variables whichever you want. For example, inside the actual main application or inside the function, whichever variables that you are using, all those variables, let us say I'm just writing one variable, some variable names. Let us say a variable v1. Probably let us say this is an array of 10 elements. Okay. So all this variable is going to take which memory? This is heap. Okay, and this is stack. Where is this stack is sitting? This is also in RAM only. These addresses and these addresses are not overlapped. Which addresses and which addresses? Stack addresses, heap addresses are not overlapped. In fact, this stack, what is happening is physically it looks something like this. If you take this entire physical RAM, then okay, up to this segment, this is called as heap. Somebody respond. Are you following? I got a signal issue here. Are you following? Am I audible? Can somebody respond? Can somebody please respond? Am I audible? "36, okay, no problem. Am I audible? Your voice is not audible. What about now? Are you able to listen my voice? Am I audible? Please respond. Am I audible now? Am I audible? Am I audible? Yeah, please respond. Am I audible now? Somebody please respond. Am I audible? Yeah, I think it's audible. Now am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now? Okay. I think there was a poor connectivity issue here. There is a small problem in Wi-Fi. Okay. Yeah, I think I need to reshare everything. Okay, where is that? Share content. I'll put my whiteboard. Now am I audible? Am I audible? Can somebody use mic?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I said, there are two parts in the data memory, that is in this fellow is not responding. Okay. So this is called as heap. Then there is another part which is called as stack. And this is reason number one why it is required. Why it is required. But please understand, what do you mean by context switching? You are switching the context of the program from some location which is already it is executing. What is executing? Program is getting executed. Which program? The program which is coded in binary. Where is the program? In program memory. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So where is the program? Program is in ROM. So this program, step by step, it will start executing. What it is executing? Machine level instructions. In which language it is coded? It has to be coded in binary. As a part of that instructions, if there is a need to jump to some other address, whenever you are invoking the because of so-called functions which are there in your user-defined language, which machine could have translated to something else, that means it has to do the context switch. What do you mean by context switch? Whatever it is doing in the consecutive address needs to be stopped, and the address of the next instruction, which is nothing but 178 in this example, needs to be pushed. That means I need to save where I have to return back safely. Okay. So and then it has to and then your program execution will jump to that routine's address which is at 300, and it will start executing all those instructions that are written as a part of your instructions inside the function. So this is what is happen. This is what will happen. Now here consider that inside this function, if you are making another jump to, let us say, at the address 500. Okay, so you are making probably another function jump here. Another function jump here with the function name. Let us say there is a function 2 whose address is at 500h. Okay, so now it is starting executing the instructions which is at 300, and this function 2 is present at, let us say, 345 address. Means at 346th address it has to return back. So notice that first you started in main. In main you are executing. Then you are saving 176, which is the address of the next fellow of function. Okay. Okay, are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the address of next address of your function 2 is at 346. Now it has to jump to the address where function 2 is written. Let us assume that function 2 is written at some other address which is at 700. Okay, so your program flow will jump to 700. That means actually your this thing will be little something like this. Okay, so I'm just extending the RAM. I hope you are following. So there is no written here. There is no written here. So before this, it is going to function 2. Okay, now this address is at 500. Which address? Function 2's address. Where 500? Which memory? Program memory, not the data memory. Program memory, you have the instructions. This is function 2 call. This is call. This is definition. What definition? Machine level definition. Which definition is about? This is function 2. That means some instructions. Then there is a written here. Okay, so therefore, as a part of function, it has started executing, and there is another function before it returns. So that function is at 500. That function is at 500 locations, but where it has to return back safely again 346. That has to be again pushed. That has to be again pushed. Why? Because after completing the instructions which are there at 500, I have to return safely. Okay, so now assume that at 500, which is the address of your function 2, which is the address of your function 2, it has executed and there are no more function jumps. Now, once processor finds that you don't have any job to be done, it looks into the stack. Now, when you pop, will you get 178 first or 346 first?
346.
Yeah, you will get 346. That means this is how the context is retrieved. Okay, so you will get 346, and from here onwards, the function 1, which is still pending, will be getting keep on executed. Now, once this also has seen written here, okay, already 346 based code is completed, and then you jumped to this function at 175, probably no 177. Okay, so 178 will be returned so that it goes back to main, and then it will complete the rest of the program. This is how it happens, and in either in main or in fun or in function 2, wherever you use variables, the addresses of those variables point to heap. Heap is large part of unused RAM which is readily available as a piece of memory which can be allocated to your variables. And stack is also a segment of memory which is used for this purpose. So at no time heap memory and stack memory are getting overlapped. Okay, you should not corrupt heap and stack. I mean, there is no overlapping of heap and stack. Okay, so this is how in functions stack is used. Clear? 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 Can somebody respond? Am I clear?
Sir,
Yeah.
like when we write a program and we are not saving that file, so is that getting stored in ROM or RAM?
Okay, when you are actually writing and when you are not saving, you are actually, there is something called as cache. Okay, it varies from IDE to IDE. Technically speaking, whenever you are writing the program, see, let me put it in this way. Always remember that you are not coding only to computers. Okay, so sooner you will be starting coding to the chips which are not at all connected to your computers. Okay, so when you do that, even though the chip is physically not connected to your computer, there are tools which will allow you to write and save your program. that doesn't mean that you are saving the program actually into the chip. Okay. So as far as writing the program and saving the program is concerned, you are using the hard disk only. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So your my app.cpp, here you are using a x86 based hardware, but your my app.exe can be on any specific hardware. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any
Yes.
other doubts? Any other doubts? Somebody was interrupting. Any doubts? No. Okay. So always remember, in heap you use as the addresses of your variables: primary memory, RAM, program has to be permanently stored, instructions which are in binary, zeros and ones. Okay. Then context switching of the execution flow of program because of function calls is reason number one, which could be because of built-in functions. We have not written the functions. We are using, let us say, the functions like strlen, okay, or any other functions, which are already built-in functions. So when you use built-in functions, it has to save the context and then it has to jump there to its significant definition, because hardware has to go and do its duty, isn't it? So that is subcategory of reason one. And second is user defined functions, your own functions. This I have explained here. Okay, function one is your function, and then function two is another function. Then you went to function two. So here you require stack. Reason two is expressions. To be precise, larger expressions. Okay, to be precise, larger expressions. Maybe I can show a sort of an example. So let me take an example of, let us say you have an expression x is equal to, let us say, a plus b, okay, minus c, a plus b into c minus d divided by, let us say, 6. Let us assume I want this. Some expression I have taken. Okay. So this is a single statement for a program, yes or no? This is a single statement, but there are different, there are various operands and there are various operators. All are arithmetic and arithmetic operators. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay, so when compilers this, instruction is already coded. Instruction is already coded in the program memory. Now the content of A, the content of B has to be saved. The content of C has to be saved. The content of D has to be saved, and then it has to reach to till the end of the expression, and it has to start revisiting the entire expression by following the precedence and by following your brackets, isn't it? So therefore C and D needs to be fetched. So in this expression, during expression storage and retrieval mechanism, it uses stack. This is reason number 2. Am I clear? Notice that address of A, address of B, address of C, address of D, and address of X are in heap. But intermediate values of first value is C minus D has to be stored in stack. That is in stack. Okay. Programmer cannot get a direct control of this physical memory, which is so-called stack. Stack is mainly used as an intermediate buffering mechanism. So C minus D has to be stored, right? And then divided by 6 has to be executed. So C minus D will be stored, and then 6 will be fetched, and then divided by will be fetched. And then this will be given to the accumulator, that is arithmetic unit. And then C minus D, which was some value, divided by 6 will be evaluated. Then this has to be saved because you have to do multiplication, but there is another bracket. So A plus B will be done first. Okay, so I think it is clear that even if you have expressions which are larger expressions, it is inevitable. Which is inevitable? Stack. And the third thing is interrupts. Okay, so whenever the processor is getting a interrupt which needs to be recognized by the processor, then you have to use the stack. So this is about the introduction of stack. And what are the various operations of stack? One is pushing. One is pushing. Pushing is nothing but keeping the data item. So it has to happen only in one way, either pushing or popping. So please note that you have to explicitly use these words only. You cannot keep insert or put or take. Okay. So your generic words are not acceptable. Push is a word which has to be used in order to keep a item into the stack. And pop is a item where you are fetching the element from the top, and when you are fetching the data element, you are also removing it. Pop means you are removing it. Pop means you are removing it. Then what is peek? Peek is nothing but fetching the element at the top and you are not removing it. That is only for reading purpose. Whether you have any element on the top of the stack. Okay, so and then finally display. At any point of time, you need to display. That is called displaying the stack elements. So these are the 4 basic operations of stack. So let me summarize. Stack is an important data structure which can be implemented by using arrays, or it can also be implemented by using linked lists. Okay, and this stack is normally point to certain dedicated portion of memory of RAM, wherein whenever there exists function calls as a part of our application design, or there are larger expressions, or there are interrupts which needs to be executed, okay, then it uses the mechanism of last in first out policy, and then the data structure implementation is done. So technically a stack is defined as a data structure and it is situated at the data memory which is RAM, wherein the last the last inserted or last pushed item only can be retrieved, which is in other words, whichever data is coming as last in has to go first out. Okay. So at this point of time, do you have any doubts? Anybody has any doubts? Please acknowledge. Am I audible? I think I'm not audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Audible, sir.
Okay. Now next is what are the various implementations of stack? So these are the 3 options which are available. Actually 3 plus 3 6, which are there in your syllabus. Okay, so as a part of additional data structures, you have to study stacks and queues. Now I have completed the definition of stack. Now I am digging into the implementation of stack. Implementation of C++ stack class with 1D static array. Then implementation of C++ stack class with 1D dynamic array, scalable. Then implementation of C++ stack class with a singly linked list. Okay. Now the pseudocode representation of ADT class. When
Unable to see the screen, sir.
oh, I'm sorry. I think I have to share this PPT, right?
Sir, now it is.
Okay. So stack data structure implementation, there are 3 options, 3 plus 3. Actually, there are 6 options. As I said, let me take some 2 minutes and then I'll close this today's session. Okay, so first option is implementation of stack class with 1D static array. Second is implementation of stack class with 1D dynamic array. And third is implementation of stack class with singly linked list. And fourth is implementation of C++ stack class with generic static array. That means C++ stack class with static array with a template, dynamic array with a template, singly linked list with a template. So these are the 6 variants, 6 problems of stack. So the nomenclature you must not change, mainly the functions. So what are the operations that are available in stack? The operations which are available in stack are 4: push, pop, peek, display. Push means inserting a data element. Pop means retrieving the data element which is at the top of the stack. Peek means retrieving the data element but not deleting. Pop means you have to delete. Push means you have to insert. That means you have to create memory. Okay. Then display means whatever are the elements are there in the stack, you have to display. Okay. So coming to the static array implementation of C++ class, if you define a class by name stack, under private access specifier, what are the things you need to have? Assuming that the stack is an integer data type, it is maintaining integers, then int s of max, then you have int top, then under public member functions, you will have stack, which is the default constructor under the destructor, along with its associated member functions. Okay, so please make a note that write the ADT stack class with integer array is quite commonly asked 2 marks question. Okay. Can somebody acknowledge, is the slide is visible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is option 1. Next, option 2. Write the ADT class of stack class with scalable array maintaining integers along with its appropriate operations. That means class stack again. Now you require 3. 1 extra you need because you need to maintain scalable. So you have to ask the user to allow what is the size of the stack, that is n. Are you following? So you will get int top, then int star s, pointer to the stack, then int n, number of elements that user is willing to maintain as the stack size, and then the same member functions as was discussed in option 1. Clear? Clear? Option 2 is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Option 3. Option 3. This is a very, very important one. This is extremely important. I think this is not int star p. This has to be node star. This has to be node star. Okay. There is a mistake in option 3. You have to correct this. This is not int star. This is node star. Okay. So in option 3, you take a singly linked list. Now the advantage of implementation of stack with singly linked list. The advantage of implementation of stack with the singly linked list is you need only one instance, which is node star sp. Sp means it is called as stack pointer, which is pointing to the top of the stack. If sp is null, then stack is empty. If sp is not null, then there is something in the stack. Let me repeat. If sp is pointing to null, then stack is empty. And if sp is not null, then you have something in the stack. Okay. Okay. Are the 3 options ADT classes are clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now one more point. Just let me take a couple of minutes. One more point is, assume that you have a stack space of, let us say, 10 elements. I'll go to probably whiteboard. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. Assume that you have total 10 elements in order to maintain option 1 or option 2 or even option 3. That means you are saying that I need a stack with the 10 entries. Just assume. Imagine. Okay. Now initially when stack is empty, are you listening? Are you listening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So initially when stack is empty, top is equal to -1. Please listen. Top is equal to -1. That will be the constructor code. Why top is equal to -1? Because array index will start from 0. Because array index will start from 0. Okay, so top has to be -1, and whenever you are pushing a data item, that means you have to increment the top, that is top plus, and then in S of top +1, you have to keep the data. So these implementations we will do in the next class. So that is option 1, option 2, option 3 with the generic flavor will be addressed in the next class. Clear? In option
Yes, sir.
3, instead of int star sp, you take it as node star sp. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll stop at this point, and I advise all of you, please start executing the programs, start sharing the programs. That is for your friends' benefit, and also on timely basis make sure you are completing all the required activities, so that the assessment process, once the lockdown is lifted, will be initiated. Okay, so I'll sign out, and then stay safe. Bye.